Okay, I think it's time for us to get started. So to introduce ourselves, I'm Mark Michelson. This is Josh Culp. We both work at Digium. One thing you're going to notice is it says hired guns. That is because when talk proposals were first being made, one of our coworkers, Sam, who's a brilliant Node.js developer who came up with the Node ARI client, submitted a talk proposal, got it accepted, and then unfortunately he couldn't make the conference. So Josh and I got hired on as secondary people to come and take his place. While we do know a whole lot about Asterisk, we're not web developers. We're not Node.js developers. We have used ARI. So naturally, when we asked what we needed to be doing, they said, come up with something. Anyways, what we did was we said, let's come up with something really silly and no one would ever want to use in their business. So we came up with something called telephony hide and seek. So what this does is this uses ARI to simulate a hide and seek game. So you have two roles. You can either be a seeker or you can be a hider. So it should be pretty obvious the way this will work. The seekers are trying to catch the hiders. So when you enter the game, you either call one number that we're going to display and you'll come in as a hider. Otherwise, if you call the other number that we have, you'll come in as a seeker. Now, when the game first starts up, no one will be able to do anything until a seeker presses the star digit in order for the game to begin. And then you'll be able to move around the room using the maze, using the 2, 4, 6, and 8 keys on your DTMF device, also called a phone, in order to move around. And then the seekers can also catch hiders, it's not up on this slide, by pressing the 0 key. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show this slide. Now, what I want to do just as a control experiment to start off with is I am going to call in as a seeker. And what I want to do is I just want to get, say, 3 volunteers to call in as hiders. We have Darren, we have Brad, and we have Sean. Okay, so you 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the seeker number. Josh, how do I pull up the visualization? Okay. So, wait a second. We had 4 people call in. So anyway, what you're going to, someone hung up. All right. So one of our coworkers, Michael Spicelin, was kind enough to code up a visualization for the game so that everyone who's not participating can see what's going on. Now, I called in as a seeker. So I am the bee. Okay? Now, of course, the bee's natural enemy in the wild is the unicorn chicken. So that is who I'm going after. So right now, these guys, none of us can do anything. We're just stuck. We're static. But when I press star, they're all going to hear a beep on their phones. There it goes. And now you can use DTMF to move around the rooms. And now, because of the cell phone latency, it's pretty slow. But if I get in a room with one of the unicorn chickens...
If you can catch them.
Yeah, I can do it. I've got him trapped. Boom, I got him. So I just turned whoever was in room 25 into a bee along with me. Who was that, by the way? Anyways, so now I've got a guy on my team, and we can go catch the other unicorn chickens. All right, I got someone. Oh, I missed him. Dang. Okay, I got someone. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you're hearing oopses coming out of phones. If you try to go to a room where there's no door, you're going to hear an oops come out of the phone.
Someone get the 1 in 1.
Oh, crud.
What do I do? Do I have to press star?
You press 0 to capture people.
Oh, that's cool.
You guys are good at this. Oh, I got someone in 12. Yeah, or 11. There we go. All right, there's one guy left. Now let me point out something to you that we've not really used much here. But if we're in the same room with each other, so whoever's in room 6... Oh, it's over now. Okay. Good job, everyone. I'll say that the winner was whoever was that final chicken. Okay, so that was interesting. So one thing I didn't point out was when people are in the same room with each other, they can actually talk to each other on the phone. So if you guys really wanted to, if you had that really elusive unicorn chicken, us bees could get together in a room together and talk it over and go, all right, I'm going to move right, you can move left, and we'll catch them. Now, obviously in a room like this, we can all hear each other anyway, so it's kind of silly, but consider the idea that, if we weren't, okay? So what we're going to do is, let's do this one more time, and this time just whoever feels like calling in can try. This is sort of a preview of what I think our dangerous demo is going to be, because I have no idea what's going to happen when you have a bunch of people call in. We have set some limits, so if you can't get in, it may be because we've hit our limit, but...
Yeah, there should be a limit of 5 seekers and 20 hiders.
Okay. So... Okay. Sounds like some people got some unavailable stuff.
Oh, no. Oh, I know why.
Did you not reset it?
There we go.
Okay, so I hope
Don't worry
everyone listened to
about
what
that.
room you were in, because if you don't know what room you're in, you're going to be lost. Now, someone started the game. All right, let's do it. Oh, I got someone. Whoever's in 22 is dead.
Good.
This is ridiculous.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Whoever's in 20 is about to get it.
that DTMF is atrocious.
Yeah, it is.
I'm still alive as a unicorn chicken.
Oh,
Oh,
I think there's a missing door. I think there's a hidden door between 4 and 2.
that's a problem with the visualization, probably.
I'm the last unicorn chicken.
I think there's some lag.
Oh, there's some very much lag. I'm completely lost where I am. I have no idea.
I know where I am.
Oh, I know where I am. I'm on him.
I'm just taunting you all.
Oh, you. Someone had him. Okay. Just mash 0, everyone who's a
yeah,
bee.
everyone match 0.
Hey, we got him. Okay, so that is demo time. So let's talk a little bit about what just happened. All right, so how did we make that? Well, the visualization is one thing, but the actual game itself was done entirely in Asterisk 13. The calls were done using the PJ-SIP channel driver, and all of the logic as far, I shouldn't say logic. What I should say is all of the channel creation, bridge moving around, that was done using ARI. And we did it in Node.js. So our Node.js application itself is really simple. All it does is use some ARI commands in order to move channels around between bridges and create the bridges and create the maze structure for the bridges to be in. We have a WebSocket server within our application that we were sending events to so that the visualization would update whenever people were moving between rooms or entered the game or something. And the game logic itself was all entirely within our Node.js application. The visualization itself was HTML and JavaScript, and it was a WebSocket client that connected to our ARI application so that it would be able to be told when things had happened.
Yeah, and thanks to Michael Spiceland up in the corner. Put your hand up.
Yes.
Come on, come on.
Everyone give him a hand.
Yeah.
He's the real hero here.
Yeah, he's the one that did all the visualization stuff, because we're not UI people.
No, we're
We
not.
freely admit that.
Also, is it obvious that we're not game developers either? So next slide. So the big thing you might be asking yourself here is, what in an application what in an application like this does using ARI buy me? Because you might have looked at that and said, you know what, I could do that entire thing using AGI and AMI. And you know what, you'd probably be right, but there would be aspects of it that would be awkward. So for instance, if you were the one thing that you get with ARI that's just absolutely clear above, better than any of the other methods, is the control level that you get over channels is great. So compare, say, ARI applications where you create channels, you create bridges, you can pop channels into bridges and out of bridges at will, versus, say, the dial application in Asterisk, where dial will create an outbound channel, create a bridge, put your channel in the bridge, and you have very little opportunity to control at any point in between or while dial is running what happens on the channel. If you do AGI applications, you also are probably going to use AMI as well in order to listen for events. ARI is both the REST interface as well as a WebSocket connection where you can receive events. So you can react to those events and issue commands entirely within ARI. And I sort of mentioned this already, but the primitive constructs more accurately mirror the structures within Asterisk. So if you create a bridge in ARI, you're pretty much a one-to-one, what's the word I'm looking for? Correlation with what Asterisk is doing when you say create a bridge. And you have the control to do what that bridge, what you would want to do, and not have any sort of inherent behavior from Asterisk. One thing that's also cool is Asterisk had no idea what that application was. All Asterisk knew it was doing was creating bridges, moving channels around between them. The actual application logic was entirely written in Node.js. We got this thing written, probably we worked on it maybe about an hour a day for a week, so you would call that about a day total between the two of us to write that.
Yeah, also I'd never written Node.js before too.
Yeah, so that's something to be said. Also, I mean, I guess this is something you don't want it to happen, but you know, if your Node.js application does crash, Asterisk doesn't get lost as a result. So having it external is actually gets you a pretty big benefit right there as well.
And yeah, going back to the mix that Mark talked about with AGI and AMI, to do something like this there, you would have to use a combination of something like the conf bridge dial plan application and the redirect action in AMI to move stuff around, which in practice is really hard to coordinate and also really control. But in ARI, it's just there and just works, and you don't really have to give it much thought.
Basically, each of those blue dots was a bridge that was instantiated in your
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So if you didn't hear what Life just said, all the blue dots on the screen in our maze were bridges that we had created in ARI.
And yeah, those were all created at startup. So in Asterisk, there were however many like little rooms there were. That's how many bridges were actually.
Yeah, there were 25 of them.
Were actually present. So how many people have actually messed with ARI at all, or looked at it? So not too bad. I know ARI is a subject that's coming up a lot these days. There's tons of talks here as well about it. But ARI is a RESTful API for writing applications. The application in this case was the silly little game. But ARI itself provides three pieces. There's the REST API, which is a thin wrapper over some of the Asterisk concepts and makes them really easier to understand and easier to use. There's the WebSocket, which provides the events so you know when stuff happens. And then there's the dial plan application that you call to hand off control to something else, your external application logic itself. And really, it's about building your own communications application. So the common stuff that people talk about is voicemail. Queues is extremely popular with people. But you can also replace some more stuff like conf bridge. One of the interns at Digium actually came up with a conf bridge equivalent written in Node.js, which has a lot of the same features that conf bridge itself has. But it took them quite a lot less time to implement it, and they had just been really exposed to ARI itself. And Asterisk becomes the engine. You become the person driving it externally. And it's all HTTP and WebSockets. So currently we have, from Digium, we have a Python ARI client as well as a Node.js one. But there's third-party bindings for ARI stuff. There's C# and then Java and
PHP.
Go, sort of. Yeah.
There's, of course, PHP ARI.
Yes, PHP ARI. So they're coming up and being developed as well. And within the actual game itself, the stuff that we used was bridges, as talked about previously, to connect things together. But bridges are really cool in ARI because underneath they're pretty complex, but exposed to ARI, they're pretty easy. You can create them, you can move channels between them. They'll become a conference for n number, where depending on your system itself, that could be 30 channels or more, depending on configuration. You can easily play back sounds into a bridge. So in some cases for people who are using conf bridge, you would normally have to use AMI to do an originate into a local channel, send that back into your conf bridge, which then you'd have to do a playback on it to send the audio in. In ARI,
I'm going to interrupt and say, in addition to just being able to play sounds into a bridge, you can play sounds to individual channels that are in a bridge as well. So for instance, when you guys were moving around between bridges there, whenever you would enter a bridge, you would hear the number of the room you had just entered. No one else in the bridge would hear that. So that was something else that ARI provides.
yeah, and in the case of bridges, it's just one thing: play this sound into the bridge, and it will be played. You can also do digits and other things. And bridges are self-optimizing, so you pass in details about how you're going to use the bridge, and it will intelligently figure out what it should do. If it should do native RTP bridging, if it needs to have multiple participants, etc. And yeah, channels. In our case, we just played back sounds to you as you moved through bridges and stuff happened. And then we also reacted to hang up. So we know, hey, you're no longer in the game, gotta get you out. And DTMF as well. That was just another event saying this DTMF digit was pressed. And our Asterisk usage was pretty simple. The actual Asterisk itself was running on a virtual machine in Montreal, Canada. And we just used the PJ SIP support up to a ITSP. And it received SIP calls, sent it straight into our game. We used the ARI stuff. And then we use the core stuff that we talked about previously. I just want to say that the stuff exposed through ARI, so the channel playback stuff, the bridges, that's all the same stuff that gets used everywhere else in Asterisk. So if you use dial, you're using the same bridging stuff. If you're using conf bridge, same bridging stuff. And really in this case, we just bossed Asterisk around from our application. And we just told it what to do and it did it. And that's what ARI is really about. So yeah, this is this actual game itself. It's up on GitHub. If you want to take a gander, the code is probably horrible, but that's okay. I'm just going to say it now. We'll accept pull requests.
Okay, we will.
I just volunteered Mark for that. So if you're interested, you want to play with it, or you want to extend it some more, add some extra cool stuff. One suggestion I'd have, which I didn't get time to do, is a emergency teleport, which would send you to another random room, but you can only use it once.
And I'll throw out my idea for an enhancement. There's a thing in ARI called Snoop channels. So if you really were trying to listen to figure out where people were instead of having a visualization, the idea of putting a listening device in a room in order to tell when people have come in and then run to that room real quick would be an interesting thing you could do as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot of possibilities. As I said, pull requests are welcome. We'll take a look at them. And for me, you can find me on Twitter at JoshNet. If you tweet me, I will probably likely see it immediately and respond. No guarantees during the night, though. As well, I'm file and IRC, so if you want to do some real-time communication, you can catch me in the Asterisk channel or the Asterisk Dev IRC channel. And then there is also, if you are a ARI application developer, there's also the Asterisk ARI IRC channel. And another mailing list that some people have forgotten about, but still see some messages here and there, is the Asterisk App Dev mailing list. So if you're writing applications using Asterisk that's built on top of Asterisk, and you want to get some help or have a discussion about something, that's a great place to go. I know Life is on it, probably. He nods his head yes. So if you want to harass Life, send a message there, too. He does not guarantee he will help you any. But who knows?
I may respond. It may not be useful.
Yeah. And then Mark is also on Twitter and IRC as
Butt.
There you go. And I also run the Asterisk Dev Twitter account. which I've basically made into a sort of place that I retweet certain things that are interesting to the Asterisk developer community. If people have created some interesting things or other stuff has come up, then I'll retweet it there, and I also tweet it when Asterisk releases happen. So if you want an immediate notification, you can follow that Twitter account, and you'll get it sometimes even before the mailing list notifications go out. And as well, if you want to talk on that Twitter account as well, that's fine too. And that was telephony hide and seek. Thank you very much.
All right.
And any questions?
Steve.
What would you say about a business application?
Oh, the business applications of hide and seek are endless. No, seriously, this is just a little game. The thing is, though, you can sort of possibly extrapolate, though, how being able to move people around in bridges and play sounds is something that is one of the most fundamental things that people would want to do from outside of Asterisk. And so, it's not hard to figure out how you might use that.
Yeah, I know people who have done it, and they were not. It was not a fun adventure for them.
Yeah, and one thing actually, I'm going to step back because I don't think we mentioned this at any point. But do you remember how when we started the game up, you had to have a seeker press the star button in order for the game to begin, and then people could start moving around the room? Think about doing that in ConfBridge, because you can write custom menus in ConfBridge, but you can't necessarily make the menus change based on application state. You'd either have to kick all the users out and put new menus on them and put them back in, or put them all in separate conf bridges that had different menus set up. Whereas because we're listening for DTMF within our application, we can have our own state machine that just says, we're in the pre-game state right now, don't accept movement operations, just wait for a star. And so that's sort of another thing that just popped into my mind that is an advantage for ARI. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Anybody else want to say anything?
Do you have any experience, any DTMF? Is that missing?
I'll tell you, I had one issue when I had two phones that were both on speakerphone next to each other, where I would see DTMF get recognized by the wrong channel just because it was being played out loud. But in our experimentation with the cell phones or anything else like that, we never had any sort of repeated or dropped DTMF as far as I know.
Within the specific demonstration we gave, it was using out-of-band DTMF, RFC 2833 from the upstream VoIP provider. And as long as we get that information, an event will show up. So if there's DTMF missing, it would be further upstream from us. Any other questions?
All right, thank you.